Well, good evening to everybody. Hopefully this is picking up the live show. It looks like it is. Very good. Hello to everybody. Well, actually, it's not woot woot Rex time yet. Rex is at 9 o'clock on Rex's channel. So at 9 p.m., and that's 9 p.m. Mountain Time, so that would be 8 p.m. Pacific Time. That is 9 p.m. Mountain Time for Rex and myself. And Rex and I'll be covering a whole bunch of stuff. California fires, possibly some other things also, Witness in the Desert, the event. So Rex is very excited. He's looking forward to it. He may even show up in this chat room now. We'll see. I'm also, as you can see down in the description box, I do have a Zoom webinar going. So whenever you see that Zoom, and I've provided the information for it down within the description box, that means that you can Zoom conference in and I can bring you in audio or even video, and you can ask questions or just give us a little bit of inspiration, tell us what's going on. Or for the trolls that want to try to come on and attack, then you can come. I've, got a disconnect button. So that won't go very far. So good evening, everybody. Glad that you could join. It looks like the room's filling up. I just wanted to give a little bit of time here, let everybody fill up. I see that we've got Diane Swan and Wendy Wallace and Angela Davis, Tanya Robbins, Andrew Adams, Sean Vest, Heiser Spawn. Hello to you. DeForce Skywalker, LC, Alfred, Reborn Again, Catrione Faircrest, Tracy Invernizzi, as always, the moderator from California that is always doing such a great job. Thank you again, Tracy. And all moderators. I see that we do have Scrub in the house, and Scrub, you see I've made you a moderator, so be gentle. I see we have Damien in the house as well, Brandon Rodriguez, Johnny Valasso, Tony Gordon, 1675 Nanny Brandy, good to see you. Paula Scott, Franklin Doofus, saying hello from the UK, hello back to the UK. Have lots of folks in the UK. Michael Murphy, Paul Goforth, Little Fish, Michelle DeHaven, Regina Bakerfield, Willow Spirit. The Purger is in the house as well. Always nice to see everybody jumping on. It's amazing. As soon as I start a live webcast, I always get tons of texts. It's like everybody's waiting. Maybe I can be disrupted. Actually, no, it's Malia, and she probably doesn't know that I'm live because she's on a flight, and she is flying back to Florida. She's got some work to do. So everybody, prayers for safe travels for Malia. So everybody, I wanted to try to cover a few things because I get the sense that there's a lot of worry out there about some of the things that are taking place. Obviously, California is ablaze, and I know that I have many friends that are on fire crews. And for many of you that don't know, for the last year and a half that I was incarcerated, I was the league clerk, and I ran a fire camp called Francisquito Conservation Camp, and that is in just outside of Palmdale in the mountains. So I'm quite used to the big blazing fires and what it requires. And I can tell you right now that for anybody that doesn't know the amount of work that the inmate firefighters do in California and elsewhere, it is truly remarkable that these boys are athletes at a level that you can't even comprehend. So I just want to give you a little bit of understanding about how amazing they are. That these inmate firefighters, they sign up for it, it's volunteer, and they're transferred to fire camp. And fire camp is definitely a way that you want to spend your time because you're not behind a gate. You are in, it's really, it's an honor system, right? There is no gate to keep you in, but obviously leaving would increase your time. And there are still very, very strict rules. Obviously, it's a fire camp. And, but these guys hike every single day, whether there's a fire or not. And when I tell you that they hike carrying 100 pounds of packed gear, and some of the sawyers, the guys that are carrying the chainsaws are carrying gasoline and a massive chainsaw and lots of other gear. And they are hiking up these mountains at the steepness of the mountains is truly amazing. And they'll hike up those mountains and then hike back down. And then they get on the weight pile and work out all day. Then they'll get a fire call and they'll be on a fire, cutting miles of line. And they'll be doing that for 24 hours straight. And then they'll come back, get a couple hours sleep, and hit the weight pile and hike and do it all over again. It's truly remarkable. And these are the guys that are out there cutting the line in probably the more dangerous spots. Obviously, they're expendable, right? They're inmates. So they are as close to the flames as you get, that these guys would come back and boots are melted, and they go through boots every single fire pretty well. Remarkable guys. They are truly amazing athletes. I've just never seen anything like it. So lots of respect out to the guys from Francisquito Camp 4, which I know right now because I have spoken to them over there. I know that they're out on these fires, and they've been on them for probably 72 hours straight. So these guys are going nonstop. So if anybody has heard of Francisquito Camp 4, go ahead and sound out in the or any other of the conservation camps within California. Go ahead and sound out in the chat room. Wonderful guys. Don't look down on them because they're inmates. I can tell you right now, some of the best people I've met. So I wanted to cover some of these things because the fires and the things that are taking place in the world seem to make people nervous. And just like I've said many, many times, Christ said, when you see all of these things, wars, rumors of wars, earthquakes in many areas, let your heart not be troubled, for all of these things must come to pass. They are simply signs of the time and should be confirmations for you. But I am going to show here, if I can share my screen here, I'm going to show a very, very interesting video of let me get to here. Share a video of a incredible drive, and you can listen to the family here. I'm just going to try to close my mouth here for a second and let you listen to this driving through the flames here.
That sucks. I mean, that's people around to some houses.
Heavenly Father, please help us. Please help us to be safe. I'm thankful for Jeremy and his willingness to be brave.
So you probably thought that that was evening at first. It was not. So it was truly a remarkable drive for that family. And as you know, just like everybody else, I always say, they're going to call on the Father. That's what she said. Father, please keep us safe. They're going to call on the Father the minute that they feel that this world is burning. And to a degree, that's what Christ meant when he said, I came to cast fire on the earth and wood that it were already kindled. That he wanted you to understand that everything in this world is temporary, and that nothing really matters except at that point, as you heard this lady speaking, nothing matters except what is inside of you. And so, yeah, it's a dangerous drive, Stellar Core. There's no question about that. I've driven through fires and watched the temperature gauge on the car go up, thinking if this car actually overheats in the middle of this, then I'm going to be left to the flames. And so there are many people going through some incredible things in California. So let's just pray that all of them, that it gives them the sense that they can, that they need to reach for a different level of understanding of things. Because I can tell you right now that tragedy is one of the greatest awakening moments you can have. So sometimes it's required. And this is why you can be thankful for all of those things. Just like I've always said that that incarceration and prison for somebody that had been a corporate executive my whole life was a requirement. I wouldn't have obtained the understanding and the wisdom. I wouldn't have been able to grasp the understanding and wisdom of the things that I had been shown had it not happened. And so, as I've said many times, is that it's as though you fell off of a mountain and tumbled down, and the rocks tumbled on top of you and left you bleeding at the bottom. And down at the bottom, while you're laying in a puddle of your own blood, that you look over and you find the truth that you've been seeking your entire life. And you're no longer upset about the fall, the rocks, or the blood. You're incredibly thankful. So I always look to troubling times as a revealing time, that people are going to be woken up, and it's a good time for people to take a look around and understand that all of this is temporary and but an illusion. And so with that said, I also want to show something else. This is a video. This is a Minuteman III. This is a missile that was, quote, test launched from Vandenberg Air Force Base in California. So let me share this and show this, and then I'll come back to you. But I want you to pay very close attention. First of all, I want you to pay close attention to the missile silo and how quickly that silo opens. And so this is a intercontinental ballistic missile. And what that means is that this is a nuclear warhead that actually can carry 3 separate nuclear warheads, each one being a 50 megaton each. So this is a single missile that can launch 3 separate nuclear warheads from it. So the destruction that this can actually have, this single missile, is startling. Now, keep in mind that it's amazing that they talk about this as I go to this. They talk about these missile launches as though they're really not necessary for tests because they have such reliable missiles, which is the truth. So then why is it that they're launching these? And they say that since the tension is down with Korea, that it's not really, it's not a warning sign. It doesn't really have a meaning. It's just a test. But really, there is always a meaning. You don't just throw a $500 million missile down the tube for no reason whatsoever. And some might even wonder whether this, and there has been some speculation whether this was actually did carry warheads. So it seems to me that that to have a silo that out at Vandenberg that had nuclear warheads attached to it, it would be quite a test or a task to remove those warheads from this intercontinental ballistic missile. So let me just show you this, how quickly this is. And I also want you to recognize just how little this looks like the SpaceX launch. So you're going to see orange flame. So this is a typical hydrogen fueled missile. So this will help you understand when I say that the SpaceX launch looks quite different than your average rocket. You'll understand when you see this.
Item 129, launcher closure door open.
So that was supplied by the, let me see what it says here, just so I can give credit where credit is due. The 30th Space Wing Public Affairs, Vandenberg Air Force Base. So there's a phone number there if you would like to call them and ask them questions. It's area code 805-606-3595. Why don't you call and ask them if it was armed? So with those types of things that people see on a daily basis, it is it's understandable why people around you would have such concerns about what is going on in the world, because with missiles, with ICBMs flying over top of your head, particularly when they didn't actually inform anybody that it was going to happen. So, and it was done under the cover of the fires. So the fire was covering the news. So not a lot of people actually saw or saw on the news, but they certainly did see the missile. So if you went on to Twitter and you watched a lot of Twitter posts, people were quite a bit more startled about that missile than they were about the fires. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of hope in all of these things, that the more of these things, particularly these fires and earthquakes and volcanoes, the more these things happen, the better. I can't express to you what it means to me to be able to see these as confirmations, because not because I like anybody's house to burn down, not because I find any joy in anybody's pain and suffering, but it's at the same time, I can't help but just understand that we are in this place in this time in the world. It looks like I'm having a little bit of buffering issues going on. I apologize for that, folks. Hopefully this keeps me here. I've got some attendees. I'm not quite sure whether anybody is looking to ask questions. I know that there's a few people that said that they're just on here. If you are on Zoom and you do want to ask a question, raise your hand. There is a little raise your hand, and I will come to you and get to your questions. So also you can send me questions in chat within the Zoom webinar features as well. So with that said, I wanted to give a quick update on the Witness in the Desert event. We are, as maybe many of you have heard earlier today, the Witness in the event, we are still trying to lock up the live internet. If we have to do uploads of videos during the evening, we will. We do have the camera equipment. We've got to rent RVs for editing, so we have a place for editing bay. We're going to have a PA out there so we can have music and speak and talk, and we don't have to be screaming in the cold. I will tell you that if you plan on attending, make sure to bring warm weather gear or cold weather gear, because it is definitely going to be a little chilly. It's quite a bit chillier here just today than it was yesterday. So I see people here showing up in the room. I see that I Believe is in the Zoom room. So I Believe, just raise your hand if you have something that you'd like to say. So yes, definitely bring cold weather gear, and there are safe propane heaters that are for indoors. So you might want to have something like that for yourself as well. I am going to have a PA. Thanks, Isabel. I'll have a PA. You're going to need a little bit more than a boom box. Plus, I like blasting music, so we're definitely going to play some music out there in the desert, and we're going to shake the mountains. So we are still trying to raise the capital so that we can come live. It is the very first quote that I got for live internet was $45,000. So clearly that wasn't an option. I have found another solution that is a rental, a trailer. Now I've got to find out what that is. I mean, I can buy the satellite system for $19,000, so quite a bit cheaper. But we have to be able to have bandwidth that is sufficient enough for us to be able to come to you live like I am right now. So we definitely want to do that. Both myself, Rex, and also Jeffrey would like to stream live the same thing to all 3 channels, plus some of the other channels that will be there. So that's the goal. So we are still raising money for that. And as I've shown, and I did today in the Discord, I showed the total amount raised thus far. So this includes the purchasing of equipment. This includes flights. This includes RV rentals, PA rentals, walkie-talkie rentals, and the purchasing of all the audio video gear. Like I said, we've raised $9,000 to date. So phenomenal. I can't tell you how much I appreciate all of it. And I will post for you now. I'm being asked in chat to post the donation link. This is a PayPal pool, what we've arranged, and that way we have an accounting of everybody that has donated. And I see we've gotten quite a few more already in today, so I appreciate that. Since this video, that is terrific. I'm posting that right now in the, wow, this chat just went crazy. Posting that now in the chat box, and also in the chat box on Zoom for PayPal donations. Every single dime that is raised from this goes directly to the event. There is nothing going in anybody's pocket. Rex isn't being paid. I'm not being paid. Jeffrey's not being paid. As you know, I don't monetize this channel, so any other expenses will come out of what I have, which isn't very much. So I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that this event is a success. And I don't have any problem making sacrifices on my own. If I had to sleep outside in the dirt, I would. So Charlie Bear says, many blessings to you, brother, from fellow Arizonian. Good to see you, Charlie Bear. Steady Eddie is asking, where is Jeff? Jeff is taking a break, a much deserved break for a couple days. So he is okay. I spoke to him today. He's well and fine. Tony Gordon says, I love you, Derek. Your channel has changed my life. Thank you for that confirmation, Tony. I appreciate you very much. And so keep in mind, folks, that as far as the donations, anything helps. Anything helps. $1 helps. Every single part of it helps, because these things aren't cheap today. I find it really, truly amazing, just the cost of some of the things that I'm doing out there. So I do apologize. And the good news is that with the purchase of this equipment, that any other event that we would do live, for instance, as I was talking about, that this ministry will go live on the road, that we have that. So it's not just this event, that it will also be a huge help in future events too, because we will have that equipment that we had to obtain for the trip that isn't rented, that had to be purchased. So I see that Tommy is in the Zoom house. So anybody that is listening and watching on Zoom, if you have a question, raise your hand. I see a bunch of hands raised here, so I will try to go in there. I believe. Are you with me? Can you hear me?
I'm not sure, but I just unmuted you, so we'll see.
I hear you perfectly fine.
Wonderful. I hear you too, and I have to pause Frozen and quiet my 6-year-old so that we can do this. It's good to be able to talk to you, first of all. Absolutely adore the whole idea.
Yeah, I wanted to just try to, make this so it's more of an interaction between the viewers and not so static just with the chat.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I love it. Everything that you seem to endeavor for us, technologically speaking, has just been incredibly wonderful. So thank you so much.
Oh, well, I appreciate you joining.
Well, I do have a question for you.
Yes.
I would like for you to give your take and some clarification on the 11-11-11 numbers. I have had some input and different things about it being the anniversary of the New World Order, and that this is a dangerous thing to do and you shouldn't be part of it, different things going around. And I would just really love to hear what your take is on the importance of this situation, if you could do that.
Well, so anytime that you're looking at numbers, recognizing that we live in a matrix system, right? So as I've said many, many times, and sorry, I believe I haven't muted you completely. I only did it so when I talk. That the 11-11 is, there are some people that believe it to be angelic numbers. Now, I'm not going to tell you that there isn't bad with good. Everything has this, in this world, in this plane that we live in, everything has dual meanings. So many people have said that the 33 is evil because the Masons have 33-degree Masons, but yet 33 is the number of vertebrae in your spine. 33 is the age of Christ. There are multitudes of meanings behind 33. The ley lines or meridian lines, the energy lines of Earth are all 33 on 33-degree ley lines. So there are many, many different meanings behind everything. And the same thing with 1111. Now, I believe that I've seen incredible things take place where people have followed the 1111 as kind of a sign. The thing is where is it leading you to? In anything that is of the fathers, like I said, gets corrupted by the enemy. So understanding where these things are leading you to, what they are, and the importance of them. Pay attention to the attributes. Where are they leading you to? Is it leading you every single time something really, really awful happens? Does it confirm things for you in a positive fashion? So, it's, I just have to, that's where discernment comes in. So when I talk about, I see 9/11 everywhere. I've seen that for a very long time. And that number itself obviously means change and massive alterations. It's supposed to be good. Obviously, 9/11 was picked as a date for change and wasn't so good. So I'm going to re-unmute you there. So you're back on, I believe. Sorry, I had to mute somebody else there. Can you hear me? I believe.
Yes, I can hear you. I thought for a minute, I don't have a dog barking. What is that?
Yeah, that was another channel there that was.
Okay, wonderful.
So
no, that was awesome.
Yeah, I hope that helps. I mean, it's just pay attention to those numbers. 11/11, obviously we have 11/11 coming tomorrow for a date, right? So, and if you add up 1 and 8 from 2018 or 18, then you also have, 9, 11, or you have 2018, add up those numbers, you have 11. So you have 11, 11, 11. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. I can tell you right now that the powers that be in the world like to use numbers as signals. And they've done that many, many times. So because they believe very much in that energy with those. So the enemy does definitely use them. So like I said, just use your own discernment, use your own heart.
Absolutely. And that's kind of what I've been sharing as well. And I just posted it on the witness side. I basically just ended with, our Father has big enough pants to protect us. So we can just lean into that. And as long as that's what you're doing, you're going to be okay.
Yeah. Like I've said many times, I go, God he doesn't really need your defense. He's got this, right? He
does. Absolutely.
He's got this. Don't worry about that. Just, let your hearts not be troubled. But,
amen.
All righty.
All right. Did you hear that old Baptist thing just come out of me? Amen. Goodness
yes, I did. I heard that. That's fine.
Scratch that.
That's all right.
All right.
I know.
Thanks,
I know what you mean.
I love you very much.
Love you too. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Okay, great. Thanks. Bye.
So I'm going to go to Normani that you have. Now I'm going to unmute you, but you have to mute the conference so the audio isn't coming back through the microphone. So Noremi,
can you hear me?
I can hear you fine.
Alrighty. Peace, love, and light. I've been following you for some time, and I have a kind of a two-part question.
Okay.
I kind of came into knowing, as far as what you speak, about within the last 2 to 3 years, and coming across your channel. Nothing's by coincidence. You kind of gave me confirmation of all the things I kind of, had been pondering and kind of questioning in life and in reality. Mm-hmm. Now, my first question is, more recently online, there's been talks about a mass coronal injection coming from the sun. I would say they said the time frame is supposed to be between 11/11 tomorrow to between December, late December or something like that. And I wanted to ask your opinion on that. And I know if you are good with the Father, and you've settled, any kind of baggage you've had, and you are in a, very positive space, that you shouldn't be worried whatever the outcome. But should we kind of prepare for any kind of, civil unrest or any kind of natural disaster that may happen? Should we prepare, have extra food, water, stuff like that?
Yes, you can always be prepared for that. I don't care where you're at. You could always be prepared, more prepared for anything that comes up. You could have an earthquake, you could have a fire. Having extra supplies of water is going to be the most important. Water is the greatest commodity on earth, right? So in any type of preparedness, water is going to be, and the ability to clean water. So clean water tabs is going to be very important. But if some of the things that take place that are in ancient scriptures and that are prophesied, it's not going to help you very much. It doesn't matter whether you have water or not. The other thing is that, like I've said many times, is that being prepared spiritually is far more important than being prepared physically. That if you are prepared spiritually, then things will make their way and people will find their way to you, because you will become a wellspring of strength for anybody else, because they're panicked. Everybody around you under extenuating circumstances is going to be far more panicked than you will be. So with that said, that people will look to you for that leadership because they don't have that peace in them. And so they're going to be they'll be taking care of you.
Okay.
And you'll take care of them spiritually.
All right. And I have another a two-part question. And so currently I'm on a fast right now, just to kind of get spiritually in tune. And, I know you kind of just don't like to go too much into the whole, Enki and Lil, and kind of stick more to us kind of preparing ourselves spiritually as far as what's to come. But I had a question, and I don't, I don't want it to be kind of taken as a divisive question. It's more or less getting some clarity and insight as far as the history of our, planet's history.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of wanted to understand, through kind of going through the conscious community, everyone's kind of from the different walks of paths of life are kind of talking what you're talking to some degree, as far as kind of, something's going to happen. Everyone kind of needs to get prepared spiritually and get reconnected with the Father. But I did want to ask you, what does, as far as race goes, how does that, I mean, like I said, I don't want to pose the question to be divisive or anything like that, because at the end of the day, white Chinese, we're supposed to love one another and, be spiritually connected to the Father. But what does melanin have to do with, I guess, things here on Earth? Why, I just want to kind of share us a little bit of light on that.
Yeah, ancient peoples were quite different. So when you read in scriptures, for instance, Abraham and Sarah. Now, Sarah was his half sister, which is why he could say to Sarah to tell Pharaoh that she was his sister and not his wife, and not be lying. But she was also written as being very, very fair skinned. And so she was beautiful to the people because they were dark skinned. And so she was quite different. Now, these would be according to ancient texts. Now, I can tell you what, I won't always tell you what I think inside myself or what I've been shown necessarily, unless I can point you in some direction to go and see it. And according to the ancient texts, particularly the Sumerian texts, the Sefer Yosiraf, and other texts that are out there, that the originators of this place, of the people on earth, were not white-skinned and not light-skinned at all, that came later. So to not make it a divisive issue, so I would say that the older generations of those that came, let's say the older generations of the fallen, is that there is somewhere between a long time ago and now, where it seems that a separate race of people came from the fallen, which was more light-skinned, white-skinned.
and that's what I, through my research, I've kind of come to, and through, kind of prayer and asking for clarity, kind of came to that conclusion. And
I don't think the color of our skin is going to make a bit of
yeah,
difference, right?
I completely agree. That's why I didn't want to offend anyone or say, wanted to make a disclaimer. It's not a divisive comment. Just out of curiosity as far as what I've been researching. And I had a third question, but it's kind of escaping me. But I do want to just tell you that I really do love what you're doing. Love, peace, and light. Keep it up. I'm really excited for the times to come, despite what may happen, just because I'm happy that, Earth and everything is going to come to the state and vibration it should be, and mankind is going to be more positive than negative. So,
no question about that.
I go by the YouTube panhandle Green Sage 9. So if you ever see that in the comment room, that's me.
All right.
Want to put that out there.
Well, I appreciate you very much. Where are you calling from?
I'm actually calling from Maryland, Baltimore, Maryland, and I'm originally West African, Liberian too, so by way of West Africa.
Very good. Well, I appreciate you jumping on here, and good questions. Thank you very much, and love and light back to you as well.
All right, thank you.
All right, bye-bye. So I'm going to go to, let me see, I see Joshua Berry. Joshua Berry, do you have a question? Trying to unmute. I think you have to unmute your mic. Oh, there you go. You're unmuted. Joshua, can you hear me?
Yeah. Hi, brother.
How are you?
I got a deep question. Like the previous caller called. I've been searching because my father told me to search before he passed away, because he was telling me I'm an antenna. Because I don't want to sound crazy. I've been locked up for it many times in the psych wards, Metro State Hospital and stuff. But it's just weird. It's like I could be sitting at church and I'm hearing people's thoughts. And some of these thoughts are not my thoughts. And I'll get in a room and I could tell there's a lot of anxiety and worry. And my question is pretty much, is there a book or something to teach me how to learn to block other people's energy? Because I am just receiving, and I'm tired of people's crazy thoughts. And we're all going to die and stuff like that type of thoughts. And I also hear people with pedophile thoughts in church. So I'm just wondering what's going on with me, because I never experienced this. I mean, my whole life converted. I used to be into Satanism. I used to be into racism, lowrider, Long Beach lowriders, racism. And I went out to Kentucky to get away from everything. And this is when everything started, is when I had this deep prayer that I am tired of money. I'm tired of women. I'm tired of everything. Just get me home. And ever since I had that prayer and I had my eyes closed, I saw fire. And I told my dad, and he's like, you better pray again, because that's not good. So I prayed again, and I saw
what you're experiencing, Joshua, is what is called empathic, right? So an empath feels the consciousness, the emotions of others. And being an empath is, that's something that has been woken up to people that didn't really know that they were empathic. And there are many people that are waking up to just that, call it a gift. Now, a gift is also a burden. Now, it's crazy but I'm going to point you to a movie. I believe it's the Avengers. It wasn't the Avengers. What is it? Sorry, it's not the Avengers. It's X-Men Apocalypse.
That's what I thought. That's what my mom and dad bought me, and I started watching those videos, and the same thing. I was like, all right, now how do I control this?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. So how do you control it, and what do you do with it? Is that you have to understand that it's a burden as long as you make it a burden. but it is not a burden if you understand that that is your gift, to be able to understand the conditions of people. So you'll be able to gauge when you're in the right room or when you're in the wrong room. And when you're in the wrong room, get out. Don't let their energy feed you or inhibit your peace.
So when the anxiety and stuff start building up, just get out.
Yeah, and speak to those people that you feel their thought or their consciousness. You let them know that you do. Be gentle, be understanding, and even those that might have bad thoughts, you can question them about that, because it might be an opportunity for you to question why they think they're having those, and that they might have forces that are oppressing them in that way. So that could be an avenue for you to begin to understand why you have that gift, that you have the ability to feel and hear their thought. And that is and at the same time, if
it's even with plants too. I could feel love. I never felt love before.
Yeah.
Like, this love is so just amazing.
I know.
It's just amazing. I never felt love like, I thought I knew love, but the Father, man, just, you can't put your name, you can't even describe the love that he has. And it's like, why me? Why me? But I'm starting to learn that.
Well, every time I ask why me, the Father responds, if not you, then who?
Yep.
And I really can't respond to that. So
Okay.
Joshua, I appreciate you. I'm going to jump to some of these other people here. I appreciate you calling in, man.
Understand.
Really
Talk
do.
to you later. Love you guys.
Love you too. So I'm going to go to Damien. Damien, you're on.
Yeah.
Damien?
Hey, can you hear me?
I can hear you fine, Damien.
Oh, sweet. Man. First, I want to say, Brother Derek, I love you, man, and my heart is, I've been with you from day one, from the journey, and I can see the Father's love when I hear your truth and the truth, or the truth, come and be spoken. It just resonates, and it just stirs something inside me, and then it just causes me to move on it, and that's how I see the Father when I see you. And so I just wanted to say that.
Oh, well, man, I appreciate that, Damien. I really do. That's why, whenever I read scripture, it becomes confirmations that, the testimony of Jesus, of Yeshua, is the spirit of prophecy. And that means that we go through exactly what he goes through. And so when I hear you say that, and I read that he says, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father, that when you're in the Father, you've seen the Spirit of the Father, you've seen that live. So it always becomes a confirmation. And that's our daily battle, right? Is staying in that spirit, staying in the Spirit of the Father. That's why John would write, there I was in the Spirit, trying to maintain that being in the Spirit. Now, I've got to tell you, for me, doing what I'm doing, this is the thing that is actually, believe it or not, coming here live on YouTube is what is my battle, because it's almost as though this platform and everything that goes with it drags me away from the Spirit. I have to retreat and I have to withdraw from everything around me to then get back into the Spirit, because this world is so filled with such nasty frequencies. And this place, and this is the whole point, is that the attackers, the trolls, the ones that come and attack, Christ, I just try to remind them that, Christ's disciples came up to him and said, hey, we found some people that were casting out demons in your name, and we told them to stop because they weren't following us. And he said, if they aren't against us, then they're for us. Leave them alone. That's the whole point, is that, so I'm like, why aren't you going out and attacking, the church that has, 75,000 members and has $1 billion and flying around on corporate jets and abusing the Father? Why don't you go after them? Go after the ones that are actually doing the damage. Nobody's getting rich off of this here. We're actually trying to truly find the souls that can hear. And so as you can see, that this is this is the thing that subtracts. It's very, very difficult. This is out of all of the things that I've done in my life, from corporate executive to developer to building companies, to Congress, you name it, everything that I've ever done, including prison. This is harder than anything I've ever done, because I never wanted to do this. Right. I never wanted to, and I still don't. It's not like I want to be known. I could care less, so.
And that's the other thing too. I want people to know that I don't follow a man, and people tend to think that because I resonate with truths and they are confirmed from the Father, when I hear them from other people like yourself, they tend to think straight away that you're attached to that, and then and they go into that area there, and you have to pull away from it, but it's a knowing inside you. You can just know it, and it just gets confirmed.
That's them. That's people that think that you're following a man. That's the limitations that they have on themselves being projected onto you and projected onto me, because they, in many cases, because most of the people that attack me and most of the people that attack you are actually going to be jealous of what you have, jealous of the peace that you have. And the people that attack me are people that also have YouTube channels, and they're very upset because they think that they have the truth, and that's fine. They might even have the truth. They might be speaking some truths. But if they spend their, 95% of their time attacking me, well, that's not how you share truth. You don't share truth by tearing somebody else down. That's not truth. Truth is, if it's true and you speak it, then it's going to resonate, and it's going to resonate with the people that are intended to hear it from you. So focusing on anything like that, no. And I tell people continuously, Damien, as you've heard many times, if you've been following the videos for that long, that I'm always saying that the kingdom is yours. It's not mine. It's all of ours, right? So every single thing that I say reinforces the words of Christ, and that can't be refuted. And that's why none of them will come on here and have a discussion with me live. They just won't, because they can't refute the things that I say. It's right there in Christ's words. And they're terrified that I'll bring something up that they don't know about Christ, that of something that he said that they've forgotten, because they've conveniently forgotten it, right? They've conveniently forgotten it, just like the church has conveniently ignored 90% of what Christ said. And that's why they reinforce what they talk about with Paul's writings, because Paul was very much about the government and the Roman Empire and the Hebrews. And so he was trying to straddle and take this the way and incorporate it back into the rulership of the rulers of the world, which is precisely what he accomplished, which is why we have churches that almost entirely follow a Pauline doctrine. They don't follow a Peter. They don't follow a Jesus. They don't follow a Thomas. They don't follow Philip. They don't follow anybody. They follow Paul.
True. That's why I like. That's why I'm sorry. I'm excited because it's 11:11 here in Australia, and I'm going to try and we're having a little gathering ourselves here, and so anyone in Australia that's near Victoria, my email is Damien Eager, DAMIANEGAR @yahoo.com, and you're welcome to gather through to now and then through to when you guys go live, if you go live. But either way, we're going to still connect. And this is such a loving event. I can feel it, and I felt it from the start. And I would just, if that's all right to put that out there.
It is. It is. Well, I love you, Damien. I appreciate you very much. And hopefully we'll get to meet soon.
Yeah, thank you, brother. I love you too.
I love you too. I'll talk to you soon. So I'm going to go to Catherine. Catherine, if you unmute your microphone, just click the little mic that has the slash across it. I'll unmute you. I can unmute you from this end, I believe. You are unmuted. Catherine, can you hear me? Catherine? All right. Oh, there you go.
Does it work?
Catherine? I hear you, Catherine.
Well, actually, my name is Chris. I was just using Catherine's phone.
Oh,
but I have a question about the good and the evil of meditation and, cannabis. If you can answer just those, your input on those.
The good and the evil of meditation. Well, obviously, if you're just like everything else that I've spoken of, is understanding the attributes of the Father and understanding the attributes of the enemy. Meditation is primarily about getting in touch not with somebody else as much as it is getting in touch with yourself, your higher self. Your higher self lives in a much higher plane of existence. So think of your higher self living in the fifth dimension. Your lower self is living in this third dimension. You're trying to contact that person, and that person is you. So you're going to know when you've contacted that person, right? That is the Christ in you. That is the blueprint of who you are. That's where you came from. That is the brother, the sister, the father, the mother of everybody. We are all connected in that way. A much higher understanding of who you are. So I would say that if somebody is meditating and trying to contact Metatron or some other spirit or something like that, there's always going to be a danger in that. Always. That your higher self, allow your higher self to communicate on behalf of whoever they know within that plane of existence. And I wouldn't try to be connecting. I mean, it's difficult enough to contact and to stay in contact and connect with the spirit of the Father in you and your higher self. So focused on that. And as far as cannabis, well, I don't smoke cannabis. I have in the past, but I don't now. I don't have anything against anybody that does. I believe that it is definitely a way that can assist you. First of all, there are tremendous amounts of medical benefits to it. I probably wouldn't be alive without it. Like I said, a very, very bad sickness that I had at one point in time. But the Father had a different understanding in mind as to what I was going to do. And I was not a cannabis user at all, but I used it to overcome an illness, and it worked. So I could never, ever demonize it or say anything bad about it. I can tell you that from the perspective of this world, if you want to break away from the illusion of the world and think about it, here's a plant that's a natural plant, and society points at it and says bad, but yet they'll say good to a drug that Pfizer makes that has a warning label that to choke a horse, and the drug that Pfizer makes will be just about relieving the yellowness from your toenails, but yet you'll have homicidal thoughts by using the drugs, and that's okay, right? So there is far more harmful drugs that are in the pharmaceutical industry than there are in, I wouldn't even call cannabis a drug, in the same way that I wouldn't call mushrooms or any other natural source. Even Scripture speaks about having all of the things that will, everything is here to address your ailments and issues. Now, it would make sense to me that the government would want to control cannabis like they did in the 60s, because there was a massive awakening that was taking place in the 60s as a result of cannabis, which is where peace and love movement came from. The Jesus movement in this country came by and large in the 60s because of cannabis. So that's why you have people putting daisies in the tips of rifles, right? And I will tell you that when I was taking it, I had said to my wife at the time, who's my ex-wife now, but I had said to her at the time, I said, I will never drink alcohol again, and I will probably use cannabis, because alcohol makes me see things in you that are not true. And cannabis makes me that I see things in you that are not true, but I think they're true when I'm drinking. And cannabis makes me see things in you that are true that I never knew were true, and they're good. Exactly. So I could find all of the good in you that I could never see before, and alcohol makes me find bad in you that doesn't exist. So to me, if you want to recognize all of the making of wine and booze in the Old Testament, I would say that that's probably the enemy's tool. So I would say, I'm not going to say anything against people drinking either, because, obviously anything in moderation is fine. And the same thing goes for cannabis, that if cannabis or anything prevents you from a connection to the Father, or you need it to connect to the Father, then that's a problem. So don't make it a dependency, or anything a dependency, right? That you need to be able to connect with your higher self on your own.
A lot of the previous civilizations that have came here, like the Anunnakis and stuff, they all just script them smoking weed to meditate and connect, to open up their temples to heaven. And
Sure.
I kind of see that as an evil. making a temple to heaven seems evil to me because you're not supposed to be focused on that.
And
Correct?
that's why I'm saying that, yeah, you want to know and to be able to rely on it, right? So to be able to refine your ability to connect with your higher self without anything is always preferable. Initially, I think that for some people, for instance, the indigenous tribes, obviously with ayahuasca and peyote, they address some incredibly amazing things and get some incredible insight. But that's not to say that they're not communicating with things that aren't evil either, right? So this is where I would always rather rely just on the Father in me. So if you can, then that's great. But initially I do know that mushrooms has been incredibly instrumental in helping people stop drinking, because the one thing that it can do is open yourself up to yourself and the honesty, and far more honest with yourself. So people that have a drinking problem, I've always said this, alcoholism isn't an addiction. You're trying to escape from something, right? You're trying to forget something, and it might not be something that you're consciously aware of. So I've even psychologists today have learned that psilocybin, or the ingredient within mushrooms, has been incredibly instrumental in helping people stop drinking right away, because it allows them to get in touch with the real reason why they're drinking. And once you can address the reason why they're drinking, they no longer have the need to disappear anymore.
That's exactly what weed does to me.
Yeah. So yeah, if it allows you to connect with yourself and be more honest with yourself, and to deal with those issues that you have, those, maybe issues that you have with parents or siblings, or, an ex-girlfriend or ex-wife, or anything like that, anything that is mentally, traumatizing to you and spiritually traumatizing to you, if it allows you to help get closer to those things and address those, whatever you have to do to address those, I would say is something that you should do in an environment. For instance, the people that do the ayahuasca, peyote, and mushroom healing sessions, they go with a guide, right? Somebody that knows what to expect, somebody that can ask the questions appropriately and help you address those questions. So I would suggest doing that.
Alrighty. I appreciate the answer. We love you. We're actually going to be going to the Witness in the Desert, me and my girlfriend, Katie.
Oh, awesome.
And, we'll get connected with you and see if you guys need anything.
For sure.
I don't have a lot of money to donate right now, but we love you anyways.
Look forward to meeting you there. It's going to be a very good time.
Alrighty. Thank you so much. Thank you for the answer.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go to, let me see. I've got John. Not quite sure. Is this John? Is this podcast John? John, can you hear me? I've unmuted.
Hi.
Hello, John.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you.
Where are you calling from?
Scotland.
Scotland. Oh,
Yeah.
Very good.
I've actually been like your caller a couple of calls ago. I've been following you from the start. I've been following alchemical processes and all that for quite a long time around various different aspects of spirituality. But it was actually your videos that got me over the next hurdle, and like leaving the jars and moving forward and all that type of stuff. But it actually led to a very extreme experience, which is just totally blown my mind. And ever since that point, it's been just mind blowing what I've come across, to tell you the truth. And it's been down to yourself. So thank you very much.
Well, I appreciate that. Do you have a question or?
Yeah, well, obviously there's a lot of stuff that kind of gets put about in media, and you don't really believe what people kind of speak about. Oh, there's this race and that race and whatnot. But during the meditation process and fasting and whatnot, I had one experience, and I wouldn't have believed that if I hadn't had a second experience, which was more material, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a very, very powerful energy of love, but it's sort of confusing whether it could have been a technological influence from that side of things.
Yeah.
And then therefore I'm sort of starting to doubt the sort of next stage of the alchemical process, if you like like that experience that I've now had is way beyond anything I'd had before. So
So let me just see. So what you're saying is that you had thought something. I'm just trying to follow.
yeah, so the first one was really, it was like it really was like a communication direct mentally. But before I thought, well, that was more like an empathic thing that I've experienced before, but it was stronger. It was almost like a takeover, and then I followed the internal voices inside, went outside, and yeah, there was a sort of interaction and whatnot with other things, and I put it purely down to the processes that you kind of passed on through the videos, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have got there unless I'd followed the actual actions that you described in the videos. So I was quite far along anyway, but I didn't actually believe that that kind of experience would come. So
well, I can tell you the different levels of connections. You know, as I've described mine, it's as though somebody took my brain out, put somebody else's brain in, but yet I was able to maintain my memory of who I was and the things that I experienced, but yet I had an entirely new set of wisdom. I couldn't even explain it. It was the best way to explain it is I had two brains. I had somebody else's and I had mine. And so that is what I would, and it was very immediate because, and this is how I kind of describe it. And I know that this is difficult for people. So I describe it as though I could then question against the new wisdom that I had. I could ask it questions and resolve the answer instantly. And this is, and it would resolve the answer in a way that it would speak names, it would speak locations, it would speak chemical compositions, it would speak scientific solutions. Anything that I questioned, I could get the answer for it. And it was truly remarkable because it was very ancient knowledge. And it wasn't until I was able to confirm that within ancient texts that I could determine that it was real. And then there's other times when I have been moved and spoken to immediately, where it's almost as though somebody is screaming within my head, and it always comes with a trigger, a relation. I'll be reading something and I'll read a phrase, and then I'll hear that phrase repeated, but with an answer to it. So
yeah. See, I've always kind of had that sort of thing happen anyway, and I kind of ignored it sometimes and paid attention to it sometimes. I was religious when I was young, brought up religious, but kind of went away from the path and then came back mainly because of your videos. But I kind of got led up to that point through researching Anonymous and other stuff in banking systems and all kinds of different things, like really looking at free man on the land, like self-copyright, all kinds of things about how to actually break out of the system. But basically the thing that when I was in the meditation, that when it kind of came over, it basically said I wasn't powerful enough yet. And I said, but I'm getting stronger type thing. But it was almost like a challenge. And I'm kind of wondering if that's the administrator that I got in touch with, or if that's more of an internal manifestation of your own like persona. Like they speak about the Holy Trinity. So is the Holy Trinity three entities within yourself that you can actually meet?
Yes, essentially. So you would have the Holy Spirit considered wisdom. So think of this as the oracle in the matrix. And then there's the higher self. There's the Son in you. And that's quite different. And then those three make up the Father. So the Father is the connected. When Christ said, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father, that's because we are collectively, his creation is collectively him. And so collectively, that's why this awakening is so remarkable, because basically Father and Mother are waking up. Earth is waking up. She's doing some amazing things. Father is waking up through the people. And this is how you know that we are coming upon a transition that is going to take place that is going to be staggering. So,
yeah,
and that's where you kind of, that culmination becomes that Trinity within you.
I suppose what I'm trying to get to is, like, I've obviously read, like you've obviously mentioned in the past, that people don't read the Satanic Bible even though they claim they're Christians and whatnot. So I have researched like things like Crowley, and the closest description I can get to is Lamb is really that type of entity. That was the first thing I thought of when I had that experience. Was that's the type of thing that I've got in touch with.
Got it.
And that was it. Yeah, that was my biggest concern. Was that was a sort of challenge that it felt like, if you know what I mean.
Yes, use your your discernment. Use your, as I've said many times, make sure that that you keep yourself intact. Always questioning, when you're connecting, when you're hearing something, question where it's coming from.
Yeah, it's that gets quite difficult, and
I know it does.
Yeah, but the other experience was totally different. But then I had a doubt about whether it could have been induced technologically, if you know what I mean, and then you start having this sort of doubt over that as well. But it's totally down to yourself anyway. I've had some emails off myself, but it's been a bit random over the past sort of 6 months or so since I had the experiences. It's just been sort of mind-blowing. So, but the actual process that you describe of actually taking out the actions, like facing up to each thing, moving forward from it and leaving over the cliff and all that type of stuff, I couldn't actually believe that I hadn't actually put that into practice.
Yeah.
And I can't believe the results from it either. So it's totally down to yourself. So thanks very much.
Well, I appreciate you calling, John, and asking the questions. Thank you for calling, knowing that we have Scotland in the house. I appreciate you very much.
I appreciate you as well. Thank you. Take
Bye-bye.
care.
So I'm going to go to, we're past an hour now, and I told you I was going to try to make this only an hour long. In Zoom, I only scheduled this for an hour, so I don't know whether it'll allow me to go over. We'll find out if it cuts us off of Zoom. But I'm going to go to Corey Stenson. Corey Stenson. Corey, are you there? Corey, if you unmute your mic.
I'm okay.
Corey, I hear you.
All right. I have a quick question. Can
Yes.
you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Where are you calling from?
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin. Very good.
Yes, I talked to you a while back about moving everything to donations only to my shop, my mechanic shop. I don't know if you remember it.
I do recall.
I've been doing that for a while now, and it's getting overwhelming with the amount of people coming in. And I'm wondering, am I supposed to like accept everybody, or because they've been paying, which I told you, I don't even like the money system. I hate it.
Yeah.
But it's just too many people, and I have to send a bunch of people away. And I was just wondering, is that a good thing, or?
Let me I'll bring everybody up to speed because I recall our conversation that was on Blog Talk Radio.
Yeah.
Yes. So we were talking about different business models and getting away from the system, because I had recommended to one lady that had a restaurant that the cost of food and the cost of things, because she was on a restaurant on her own property and grew her own crops. She couldn't charge enough for the food. She couldn't justify the prices. She felt bad. So she was going to close the restaurant down. And I suggested that she, rather than naming a price for it, that she would continue to make food the way that she made it, continue with the quality of ingredients and the things that came from her farm there. And that instead of naming a price for it, that she would just give me what you feel the value of what you receive is. And as a result, she's done multitudes more than she would have if she charged per plate. Now, I'm not quite sure how that's worked out for you. I'm sure that sometimes probably people pay you more than what they would have paid had you charged them. Sometimes people will pay less, whether that equals out. But at the same time, as you're saying, it brings more people. So you do have to limit. Obviously, you can. What I would suggest is that you gauge as to who's coming, right? That becomes a conversation that you have. Why are you coming?
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about yourself, right? So if they're asking for you to give up your personal your skills, then you want to know a little bit about them.
Yes,
Right.
I do talk quite a bit, and it's almost like people are coming that are spiritually, and they're more open. Like the people that are coming here, it's almost like Father is sending them. It's amazing. I've been totally fine. People are paying way over what I would ever expect for just a donation. It's quite. It's constant smiles on my end, which I'm not saying that if it was up to me, I'd make it all free. Like that's just kind of how I am. But
Yeah.
it's been working out quite well. It was another leap of faith, I guess, that I kind of went into, and I just took it completely. And what's crazy, you answer my question on that part. I'm just gonna have to talk more. What's funny is the conversation right before this one was I just got done with a 10-day Vipassana meditation, and something happened to me. I've never heard of it before, but they said a crown chakra opened or something. I don't know anything about it. I did it because of another friend had told me to maybe go into there, and it is looking all inward. It's becoming Buddha yourself, which is just a word. It's not a religion.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I love, and I've tried to impress upon people is that, if you begin to, read the story of Buddha and Christ, and you start to see that all of this ancient wisdom of peace and understanding are using different names, different cultures where it began, but essentially saying the exact same things. If you read the Buddhist teachings, it's the teachings of Christ. It's the same thing.
Yes. Oh, and quick, that's exactly what I've experienced with this life. I don't know what kind of a crazy matrix we're in, but it's becoming more enlightening every day to see just what's happening around me and the different people and the people I've been meeting. It's constant smiles, like I said. And for 1 second, my son wants to say hello to you real quick.
Okay.
Here.
Hello.
Hi there. How are you?
Yeah, it's my son, Hunter. But that's all I have to say.
Good to meet you, Hunter.
Yeah. He's smiling right now.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you calling, and you stay in touch and tell me how things are going. Make sure you stay in touch.
Oh yeah, definitely. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All righty. I'll talk to you soon. I'm going to go to, let me see. I'll try to grab somebody, Wendy Burns. Wendy Burns.
Yes.
Yes, Wendy, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Derek. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. Where are you calling from?
Northeast Texas.
Northeast Texas. I thought I detected a little bit of Texas on that in that accent there.
Yes, and that's my bird in the background if you hear hollering.
I recognize the sound.
Oh, well, I did have a Moluccan cockatoo, so this little conyer's nothing like that cockatoo.
Yeah.
Anyhow, I have a question. It's regarding the first Adam and second Adam. Now, from what I understand, God the Father made the first Adam, male and female, together from the dirt, and he breathed life into them.
Mm-hmm.
And then, from what I understand, that the fallen ones wanted that spirit, the female quality, which was supposed to be the Holy Spirit. And so they took a rib from Adam, or part of his DNA, and made Eve. Now, then I hear the story where they got this Lucy 8 XX chromosomes, and then they took Enki took his DNA and then made humans. Now, I'm just a little confused if we're talking about the same thing or.
Yeah, that's essentially, if you read the Sumerian text, Enki, he took a hominid, and he began to take the hominid, which was essentially early version of man. This is where you have the combination of creation and the combination of intelligent design, where this is why you can have a division that the truth is in both of them, because essentially what according to the ancient Sumerian text is that they simply sped up evolution by many, many millions of years by taking their DNA and mixing it with a hominid. And yes, they took a female DNA. Now, they took the female hominid first to give birth, but then they recognized that that it was having issues. And so then they took what they called birth goddesses, or Anunnaki women, and they took the DNA of the hominid, the DNA of the male, and the DNA of the mitochondrial from the female, and they actually implanted that in the Anunnaki birth goddess. And so this is where you would have you've got Anunnaki birth goddesses, statues and engravings all over ancient Egypt and the Sumerian antiquities, where you have these kind of large birth-bearing women. Now, there were a multitude of these birth goddesses that were from, and they were basically in these texts, they were churning out male and female, but they were not able to procreate yet. And that was another step. And that's when they actually took, and that is where you would have Adam and Eve tending. So when they first perfected Adam and Eve, after the Adam and Eve that you get in the garden, that's the Adam and Eve that they had perfected, but could not yet procreate. So then, according to the Sumerian text, then they were taken by Enki, because Enlil had them in the garden, the originals, essentially the prototype, right? So the root of this man, the prototype, was in the garden, was in Eden, and Enlil oversaw them, but they were Enki's children, and that Enki came into the garden because that's why he would be able to come into the garden if he was the brother of Enlil, and he had that ability and that power and that clearance, so to speak. He came in, and then he gave them whatever they needed to procreate. So this is where you have the tree of knowledge, or the tree of knowing. Everything in scripture, including in the Bible, is Adam knew Eve and then had Seth, or Adam knew Eve and had Abel, right? Knowing is sex. So the tree of knowledge was them taking this new DNA component that allowed them to procreate. And that's what the ancient Sumerian text. So people can disagree with me or say, that I'm distorting something. I'm simply telling you precisely what the ancient Sumerian texts state. And this far outdates the Old Testament, far outdates the Torah, in cuneiform language. This is incredibly old and covers stories and that go back hundreds of thousands of years, much less 6,000 years or 7,000 years like the Torah.
I plan on getting the Nag Hammadi text. I just haven't got that yet.
Yeah, what I would suggest is the things that I'm telling you right now, I would get for anybody out there, the Lost Books of Enki. And the easiest translation to read of the Lost Books of Enki is Zechariah Sitchin's version. Sitchin's translation isn't spot on, I would say, but it's good enough for you to see right away that the Bible itself today, the Old Testament of the Bible, is plagiarism at its greatest. It has plagiarized all of these ancient texts, and considering that the Egyptians knew all about the ancient Sumerians, and that Moses was quite high level and quite exceptional amongst the Egyptians, so he knew these ancient stories. He knew this stuff, and this is why he was able to write them. He was very, very well versed in the mystery Egyptian schools at the time.
Okay, well, thank you so much. I do have one more question, if that's okay.
Sure.
I don't want to take up other people's time. Back in the later 80s, well, I'm 57 right now, but back in the 80s, I received the Holy Spirit. I felt it. It was just wonderful. And I know over time, there's that honeymoon phase, and then it kind of, settles down. Well, the last 10 years or so, I've had a lot of trials in my life. I don't know if I'm being refined in the fire or what, but there came a point where I pretty much, I still believe in God and Jesus and all that, but I just started like a downward spiral, like hurting myself, because I felt like I was a failure at certain things. And then the Lord called me back home back in February 2016. Now, what is this twice dead? Because I'm not feeling that spirit that I had back in the 80s.
Mm-hmm. Well, currently what's taking place now, and this I get questioned a lot about precisely what you're talking about, because in preparation, this refinement, first of all, you do go through refinement. There is no such thing as, and this is the story of Job, right? Where God says to Satan, have you checked out my loyal servant Job, right? So when Job is called, he sends Satan. So Satan is the refiner. Satan does the work of the refinement because that's his job.
Boy, he's good at it too.
And that's what he does, right? So yeah, of course, he's really good. And so he brings that fire. And that is burning out all of the things, your fears, your concerns, your loves for things of this world, where you're demonstrated, they're burned out because you just become dead to them. And that's the dying to the world, right? So dying to this world is one death. Dying in this world physically is yet another, right? So that's why the second death won't hurt you, because you have already superseded the physical death. You know that you have eternal life. You have cleared your consciousness of all of the lies of sin of the enemy and of this world. And that now it doesn't matter if you die physically. I could die right now, right here on camera, and I'd be totally cool with that.
Even though I don't feel that way I did before in the 80s, but because I'm sorry, I don't hear you now. Are you still there?
I'm here.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. So I could, when he gave me that vision back in February, it was a vision. I'm standing there on planet Earth, and there's people running to and fro, and I'm just standing still looking up, and I see this big orange planet-like thing coming to the earth. And I mean, I went to my knees and I cried so hard I shook. I felt like not only my sins and guilt and shame, but it's like I felt the world's sins. Now, I haven't been downloaded the information that you have, so I'm sure I have a different part in all of this. I feel like I should be in Arizona, and I'm going to try to go there whether I go by myself or not, you know.
Yeah.
But I just was wondering, God wouldn't have called me back if I was twice dead then, right? Because I turned my back on him when I started that downward spiral.
Yeah. So no, he would not call you. He would not call you back. If he's calling you to something, yes, and you're going to have a very different. You're going to have something very different than we have. I want to address something here that I've got Paige Love that says Sitchin is a puppet. I'm talking about the writer of Sitchin. This is where I talk about dogmatic statements and beliefs. So Paige, with all due respect, I'm going to let you know this right now. You can go and look at the cuneiform text yourself. You can go into Oxford, you go into England, you can look at these things yourself. And you can look up the translation stones in the Rosetta Stone. You can see and you can translate these things in yourself. And you're going to see that Sitchin was simply translating the cuneiform text, and everybody else out of all of the people that have been able to translate the cuneiform text are translating those directly. So puppet, I'm not quite sure whether he's a puppet. To me, when somebody comes in and makes a dogmatic statement like that, you become a puppet for the enemy. So sorry about that. I just have to address. I just have to address things that are ridiculous sometimes.
Yes, and I heard that Scott McQuaid or whatever, he was real good in teaching about how you translate the old cuneiform or whatever.
Cuneiform.
Yeah, cuneiform text, and that was really interesting. Interview with WSO.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
anyhow,
the translation of the cuneiform text is something that I specifically went in and started to look at it myself, because I just wanted to make sure that that the words that they were talking about that were actually a very accurate representation, because we're talking about words that you couldn't imagine. It's what defies the mind when these texts speak of spacecraft, right?
Yeah.
And they're speaking about using spacecraft that use water as fuel, and it's quite startling. You're thinking, wait a minute, how many thousands of years old is this text, right? And they're talking about spacecraft a few 100,000 years ago, and you got to immediately go, stop, wait. So I had to go into the text myself and start doing the letter by letter, symbol by symbol translation. So I really enjoyed that task, and I would invite anybody to do so. That's Yeah,
Okay.
it's not easy.
Yes, I could imagine, and that's wonderful that you could do that. I don't know if my nerves at this point could sit down and try to interpret all that. I'm raising my 3 young grandsons, but anyhow, I appreciate your time in answering my questions, because this has really bothered me for a while, because my family, I'm not able to bring them yet into the truth. I'm going through the thing where they think I'm crazy or whatever. But
Yeah.
I asked you a question the other day about if you felt when you were very young, if you had a purpose, and I can resonate with that, because I've always felt that. And I've had things happen in my life that I don't know how to explain other than something divine that took place. And so I'm sure I'll find my purpose. I just want to make sure that I wasn't twice dead.
No, no, you sound very much alive, and I can hear the spirit and feel the spirit within you. So you don't worry about a thing, Wendy. I think you're on the right path.
Well, thank you so much. And you have a blessed evening, and I'll let you continue
You
with
too.
others. Thank
Thanks
you.
so much for calling.
Mhm.
Well, awesome. So I'm going to go to one more caller here. Going to only have a few more minutes. I'm going to be on here. I'm going to till 7, and then I've got to take a break. And I will be on, everybody. I will be on Rex Bear's channel, Leak Project, at 9 p.m. Arizona time. So that will be 2 hours and 5 minutes from now, 9 p.m. Arizona time. That's going to be 8 p.m. Pacific time. And I'm going to bring on Isabel Sanchez. Isabel, can you hear me? Isabel?
Can you hear me?
I hear you.
Whoop whoop. I'm right here.
You're
hey,
on.
does the video work? Does the video work?
I don't have video. I just have audio.
Good. Good. You can't see my Pocahontas hairdo. I have a question though. I was digging into the secret book of Adam and Eve, and I thought that I had the whole thing figured out with Cain and Abel being Elohim and Yahweh and the Nephilim bloodline. But then reading the secret book of Adam and Eve, it says that Adam ate from the tree of animals, not the tree of humans. And I don't understand that. Can you explain that to me?
That we were given the essentially, just like we have the reptilian side of our brain, right? That we were given more animal instinct. We are not, who you are spiritually is not an animal, right? So when you read the Nag Hammadi text, when you read the Nag Hammadi text and it speaks of you reacting and acting and living like an animal, is essentially sin. That when you begin to mix the intellect that we have with the animal body that we are born into, that we begin to then tread upon others in a negative fashion.
So why doesn't the Bible actually say that there was 2 different trees?
Well, this is the reason why the Bible doesn't say that. What you can go back to 325 CE and ask Mr. Constantine why he decided to pick and choose from the many thousands of books that people had studied at the time for ancient scriptures, including the probably close to 500 books that spoke of Christ that were not included and canonized by the Roman Catholic Church. You can ask Constantine that, but yes, quite a bit of the text had been altered, obviously.
You're being funny because I haven't figured out how to time travel to ask him that, but I will. I'll figure that out.
I have a feeling that you'll figure that out, Isabel. I'm going to take one more caller, Isabel, before one more, and then we'll go. But I'm going to see you soon, I'm sure.
I will. I love you. Love
you
everybody.
Too. So, Alfred, I promised that I would come to you. Alfred, I've unmuted your mic. You are on, Alfred.
Hey, Derek. How are you?
Very good. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm calling from the Netherlands.
The Netherlands is in the house. We've got the Netherlands, Scotland. I've seen people here in text and chat. We have somebody in South Korea and somebody, hey, they let us go in China. So good.
Yeah, what a ride is it, right? Like receiving so much stuff from the Father, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like music and numbers that guide you to Bible texts, and some revelations that I shared one with you, and you made a video about it earlier this year. I
Yes.
don't know if you remember.
I do remember.
And then I recently was asked to add something to it.
Okay.
So I don't know what it all means, but I sent you the email. So just wanted to ask you if you would look at it sometime.
I will dig through those emails. Right now I'm quite backed up on emails because I've been so focused on getting things ready for the desert event, trying to negotiate for satellite internet, RV rentals, arrange for flights, and doing all of that. And so that's been great. Right now, like I said, we're still trying to raise money at that PayPal for the PayPal Witness in the Desert and that PayPal pool. Anybody that has not, does not know where to donate and to help out, I'll put that in the chat box right now, because we still do need to get funding for the satellite internet. That's our big holdup right now. We've got.
I already donated some money.
Oh, well, I appreciate you so much, Alfred. I really do. Everybody that's donated, I can't tell you what an inspiration it is. That it really shows that everybody wants to see, what this family is all about and what is out there in the desert waiting for us. And I can tell you that based on the things that I've been hearing, I'm expecting some very, very interesting things and some beautiful fellowship. And getting everybody together to be able to broadcast that live from the desert, I think would be, that's a first for YouTube. I haven't found anything that's quite like it. So, and it'd be something that I'd like to be able to do more often.
What can you tell me about the 3 days of darkness? Because I had a flash vision and I was standing in the darkness before some army, and the army was the only thing that was lit up. And then I was standing in front of an angel that was much taller than me. And the angel was the only thing that was giving light, and the rest was all darkness.
Well, I spoke about the 3 days of darkness and, how there can be multiple meanings for it. 3 days of darkness can be very much a spiritual darkness for many of the people in the world. 3 days of darkness could absolutely be 3 days of darkness from the sun. I think that when it speaks of the sky rolling up in scriptures, being rolled up like a scroll, I don't doubt those scriptures. So I'd go back to that video because I don't want to cover more of the stuff, but I think it was the last live video that I did, I covered some of that. So rather than, because I've got to get off here, I'm already 2 minutes over on my time. And I believe that this webinar is going to boot me off any second because it's giving me warnings.
Well, some time ago I was meditating, and then the Father asked me to go outside. So I went outside, and there was a star that was as bright as the sun. And then the Father told me to stand in the open place and then close my eyes and tell the star that here I am, and then raise my hands up to the star. I don't know what it all means, but it's some amazing stuff that we go through,
Yeah, well, when you have something like that, I will say this, Alfred, is that when you have those types of visions, don't expect, answers or confirmations on what they are right away. It's important that you just catalog those, and you're always looking for confirmations, and it's never going to be a single confirmation or a single thing. Look for multiple different understandings of that. So don't be disappointed if one understanding you don't like so much, because there's always going to be more to follow.
There's more questions and answers always. So
always. Well, that's hey, that's great. If the Father's giving you more things to question, and he's giving you more information that causes more questions, when you think that you don't have any more questions, well, then that's a problem.
Yeah. Because then you don't hear them anymore if you don't have any questions.
Exactly. Yeah, I have questions every day, all day, and I'm constantly trying to answer them. And when I get answers, I bring them to you. Well, I appreciate you. Reaching out again, Alfred. I'll look for your emails and look back on that, and we'll do more of these, so you'll be able to jump in here more often.
Thank you for having me, Derek.
All right. Thank you so much. So everybody, I'm going to drop off this now and get ready for Rex's show, 9 p.m. on Leak Project. Leak Project. If you don't know how to find Leak Project, just type in Leak Project in the search bar in YouTube, and you'll find the Leak Project right away. So I love you very much. I'm so thankful that you all showed up tonight. And I hope that everybody enjoys the ability to bring in callers on this. I'm certainly enjoying the interaction. And I think it's great to be able to hear from all of you and to get your questions. I see Paula Almanz is there. Paula, thank you very much for another moderator extraordinaire. And thank you to Warrior Princess as well. Jason Graham, Tony Gordon, Watchful and Alert, Jeff Scott, Karen Teves, Sheila Abrams, Vince Proctor, Gemma Church, Isabel, thank you very much. Victoria Cunningham, David J, Renee Marshall, Scrub, always good to see you. Alicia Stanley, Joshua Berry, Damien again. Thank you, Damien. I love the call. Don, Tess M, Edward, love you all very, very much. And I hope to talk to you very soon, God willing.